RMJ Movie Reviews back again with the next review in my Arnold-a-thon. This time, Conan the Barbarian. The first film. I'm doing them backwards, but after moving forward, I'm going to try to do them in order with just these three films out of place. Conan the Barbarian. As I have said before, Conan is pretty much the character that hooked me to Arnold Schwarzenegger. Conan is absolutely my first cinematic viewer experience of what we now know as Arnold Schwarzenegger. And I just, as a child, I fell in love with Arnold Schwarzenegger in terms of a hero because of this character. I saw Conan the Destroyer first, as I told you all in the Conan the Destroyer review, and then I had actually rented. No, I can't remember. I think my mother taped Conan the Barbarian for me off regular TV back in the days of public television in the '80s, and of course, as a little kid, I always liked Destroyer because it was more kid friendly. In this version, although I liked Conan the Barbarian 2 when I was a kid, I felt it was a little bit more boring in comparison to the Destroyer, which makes perfect sense because Conan the Barbarian is an adult film and Conan the Destroyer is more kind of children oriented. Conan the Destroyer is a comic book and not handled with the slightest bit of seriousness. Conan the Barbarian, this is an epic sword and sorcery film told with straightforward seriousness. That is sometimes the seriousness is a little bit deflated because of maybe some actors. I'll get onto that later. But through and through, this film was released in 1982. I believe I was only maybe 8 or 9 months old when this movie came out because I went back and read when I think this was released in May of 1982. I could be wrong, but I was born in October of 81, so I was too young to have ever seen this theatrically. But from all accounts that I understand, this was a ginormous hit with a bunch of other movies that summer. I think this was the summer of Poltergeist and a bunch of other stuff that came out that summer too of 1982. I think E.T. and some other stuff. So it was a big summer for summer movies, and this was one of the hits that came out that summer. But this is epic old school storytelling at its grandest. This is like on the level of you think a movie like Apocalypse Now, that's a very grand story that goes to all these exotic locations. That's what I love. And through, this film was probably filmed in 80, 81. So through and through, Conan the Barbarian, this is a 70s film. And the storytelling is exactly like a 70s film. You have these very epic, gigantic, wide shots of just the landscapes where they shoot, and they shoot in some beautiful practical locations. And this is a beautiful film to just look at. It is gorgeous. Oh, I just love the way this movie just looks. And you can see Destroyer has the same locations too, but Destroyer is shot a little bit more closer in. It's a little bit smaller. This film is just wide and grand, and you can just feel the locations. It feels real. It feels so real. And what I like about this is how, as indicated in the behind-the-scenes features, and when you watch the film, this is a sword and sorcery film, but it leans more heavily on kind of this possibly could have been the way man lived back in these times. Whatever time period this is, man could have lived there. I like the fact that, yes, there are things that take it into fantasy land. So you have the gigantic snakes, which is a part of the brilliant James Earl Jones, who plays the cult leader Tulsa Doom, who I believe, according to the director, was modeled after the very scary character Jim Jones. The Jonestown Massacre. That happened way before I was born, but I've been seeing all the documentaries about it for years. It's scary stuff. But James Earl Jones' character was modeled after that. And he is appropriately demented, and I love how, it's just, this has real locations, real practical in-camera action, and the performances are very theatrical. Now, speaking perfectly honest, the strongest performer in this cast is two people. That would be James Earl Jones, and that would be I'm sorry, it's not. I was gonna call her Sandra Bernhardt. That's way off. That's the comedian from Hudson Hawk. It is, she was in Red Sonja. It was Sandra Bergman, which I think she's a great actress. She's a fantastic actress. I had such a crush on her in this movie when I was a kid. She's just like fantastic. And digressing for a tight minute so I can pick on Captain Marvel again to really piss people off. Valaria, who is the character that she plays, is an extremely strong female character lead, and she doesn't have to pop out with all the pop tunes to prove that she's a strong woman. She just gets out there and she kicks ass. That's how she proves it. She doesn't have to go out there and say it. She just does it. Watch, but okay, I'm done picking on Captain Marvel for a slight minute. I'll get a thumbs down for that probably, but as I did in my Captain Marvel review. But I mean, they're the two strongest performers in this movie. James Earl Jones plays this character exactly like a Jim Jones. What I like the way he plays him, and he plays him like a true villain, because the true villain believes that everything he's doing is right. You know what I mean? Basically, he's a guy who says, "Hey, look, this is my way. This is the right way for me to have true power and true strength." As it indicated that the line that he gives to Conan is that still ain't strong. Flesh is stronger. You understand what I'm saying? So basically, James Earl Jones in this movie as Tulsa Doom is like the ultimate pimp. Like, really, forget about Superfly, forget about any character you see. He said, this dude is like a legit pimp who has mind control. Because there's a scene where he turns around and goes, "That beautiful girl, come to me, my child." And she jumps off the ledge. And I said, well, dang, that's some mind control for your butt right there. I mean, if that is not pimp game, that is not pimp game. I don't know what is. He's beautiful. He plays the character completely theatrical. And Sandra Bergman, she plays the character just a very strong female lead. She wants something, she goes after it. Her conviction is very, and she just goes after what she wants. And she's a very strong female lead. Mako pops up in it, who's also in the sequel. He had a bigger role in the sequel. He's the narrator of the story. That's how I love they kind of have a traditional opening where they lay out the sword and how Conan learns that the sword is that's the only thing you can trust in this world, as indicated by his village being slaughtered thereafter and him losing everything. So Conan is in this world alone. The only thing he can trust is the sword. But as the movie goes on, Conan learns that really, okay, the sword is strong, but the flesh is stronger. The strength is within Conan to overcome. And that's what he does. That's his arc in the movie, that he overcame and the strength came from within, not just the sword. But he can trust that sword, but his strength really, he has to rely on himself. It came from within. So that arc is played out in the movie. The costume designs are very much kind of in between. Like, it could be like a caveman era, or it could just be some era in some other part in time where man lived between the dinosaurs, after the dinosaurs. We don't know when, but it's somewhere in there somewhere. And like I said, the creatures could almost, because there's one of my scenes that I really love in the scene, as there's many in this movie. But one scene that I really love is where Conan encounters the witch lady after Conan becomes free after being taken into slavery. I love the scene where she goes, "Do you not want to warm yourself by my fire?" To which probably every man who watches the movie or is in the movie would answer that question with a great big gigantic yes. I mean, I don't think there's any man in this audience watching this review, or me, or any man who would probably say no. All of us would. I mean, anytime a man runs free, he does exactly what Conan did. So I mean, that's just Conan just being a man. So that was him going into manhood, doing what he did in that scene. And it cost him, just like it cost all us men who follow that instinct like we always do in real life. We follow that instinct and we pay a price for it every single time. So there's a little bit of innuendo in that scene. She turns into a witch while they're making love, or whatever they're doing, and he throws her into the fire, which is absolutely hysterical. We used to laugh at that when we was a kid. That scene is just like still funny, man. It just even Arnold Schwarzenegger's expression with him just going, if I could say Arnold Schwarzenegger's worst acting in this movie, it's definitely that scene. That I can flat out say that's his worst acting. I'd like to get on to that. I've heard people always knock Arnold's acting for years. I think I want to be clear in saying that Arnold Schwarzenegger never got into the movie. Digressing, Arnold Schwarzenegger never got into the movie game to be Robert De Niro or Al Pacino. He never did. Schwarzenegger was a person driven by. He just had this relentless drive to him to be the best. And Arnold Schwarzenegger got into the movie industry because he knew that there was a lot of money in it. Period. Plain and simple. That was Arnold Schwarzenegger's main motivation, because Hollywood is a corrupt, money-driven industry. That's why he segued into politics. Arnold had it completely mapped out like that. So for all the haters of Arnold Schwarzenegger, he never wanted to be Pacino or De Niro, so don't knock his acting. He got into the business because there's a lot of money in it. Period. And his career throughout the 80s indicated that. Blockbuster action, blockbuster action, blockbuster action, and they all pretty much hit the same story points until you got the twins when he did the comedy and switched it up. So that explains Arnold Schwarzenegger's acting to people who think he should be a theatrical Shakespearean stage actor. But if there's any worse moment in Conan the Barbarian of Arnold's acting, it's definitely the making love scenes. He's just not good at them. That leads me on to the extras in the scene, particularly the famous scene that we all love is, crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and the lamentations of the women. I can't remember how you say the word. Either way, that guy who goes, wrong! What is great in life, Conan? He's horrible. And the other guy right before him is horrible too. Those little bit parts throughout the movie, those actors are absolute dreck. They're horrible. And they are the actors who really bring those moments of Conan the Barbarian down maybe about 2 points. So really, overall, this movie's a 10 out of 10. Those little bit parts with the horrible acting drop it down to about an 8 out of 10. But still, it's a solid 8.5, pretty much teetering under a 9, only driven down for those moments. Of course, Arnold's boy pops up in the movie as one of James Earl Jones' henchmen. I don't know how you say the guy's name, but he's the guy who has the very strong blue eyes, and he's been in everything. He's in Steven Seagal on Deadly Ground. He's been in all of Arnold's movies. He was in Low Down Dirty Shame with Keenen Ivory. He's the man has been in everything. He's probably not doing anything anymore, but he pops up, and I think the other gentleman, who's, I don't know whether it's his brother or his partner in crime, who's the other henchman for James Earl Jones. I believe he was a football player. I think that guy was in the NFL. But I love that you have the formidable foes, and also because this takes place in caveman times, those gentlemen, the way they're built, and Arnold's built, you would think that's the way man would look if he lived off the land back in those times, So everything is kind of, for the most part, connected to what you would believe is reality. I found something interesting on the commentary, how the director said that choosing James Earl Jones as the head of this cult, the fact that James Earl Jones is a man of color, is a black man, but the fact that you put these contact lenses in his eyes to make his eyes blue, and then you give him this long, straight black hair. So he said that it kind of gave James Earl Jones like this look of like maybe a look of maybe a race of people that I don't want to use the word extinct, but just a race of people that maybe died out or don't exist anymore. So almost like James Earl Jones is maybe the last of his kind, right? You understand? So maybe that's what leads him to create this cult. You understand what I'm saying? He's the last of his kind, but he got to run something if he's the last. So why not create this cult where he's driven by just power of people. He's so powerful that people just kill themselves for him, and that's his main drive. Maybe that's his main drive. His main drive is to get everybody to kill themselves as much as they can, so he'll be the last one. I don't know. It's demented stuff, and it's sick, and that's also fun too. Is that he's a truly twisted villain, and James Earl Jones plays the most twisted, sadistic, sick character with so much class. That is brilliant. Brilliant. But the costume design, the practical action. What I also love too is that what you learn about Conan is that he was taken into slavery. His father taught him about the I believe it was a riddle of steel, to trust the steel. You can't trust anything. You can trust the steel because it's almost like live by the gun, right? But you can trust the gun. You can trust the weapon. That'll always be your best friend. That'll always be there for you. But see, Conan's father was killed when he was young, so he don't know what to do with that. But when he's a slave, he gets taught by the samurai guy, right? The samurai guy teaches him kind of almost like a ninja warrior code of how you handle the sword. And you see Arnold twirling it. I'm like, this is bad. Yes, it's awesome. And you see him use that technique towards the end of the film when you get into the really final battles. Now, Conan the Destroyer has a little bit more fancy technique with the action, but they do incorporate a lot of good sword play within the action sequences, and I like that. Oh, man, it's just great, man. I really love it. Blood splatter all over the place. There's decapitation. Conan the Destroyer has decapitations, but Conan the Barbarian has one really nasty in-camera decapitation that even still when I watch it to this day, man, I mean, it still makes you go, ugh. It's when Valaria cuts the guy's head off. That one just makes you go, ugh. It's tough. I love that scene. That's like one of my favorite scenes in the film. Goodness, guys, I love this movie so much. I could not go on with this review without, of course, again talking about the fantastic piece of music. And what makes this more even of a 70s movie, not only is this story driven, and also too, the story is not a completely cut and dry. Conan the Destroyer is more plot driven. This one, the story is really more driven by the character's actions. So you're with the character. This is literally 70s style filmmaking where you're with the character. The story is unfolding. So like in life, our story unfolds and it creates every day when we walk out the door. That's how this movie is. You're with the character. It's unfolding. It's not like Conan the Destroyer where Sarah Douglas basically tells the entire movie and you're just waiting for it to happen. No, this one, you're with Conan, with the journey. It's happening. You are with him. Epic storytelling. And what I like is that about 90% of this movie is driven by imagery and music. Imagery and music. It's not, you don't have to say, look, when Conan's father gets killed, that entire village massacre, all driven by music. When Conan is resurrected from the grave, driven by music. There are chunks and chunks of this movie that are just driven by I'm sorry, guys. I should know this gentleman's name, and I do know his name, but I just can't say it. Basil Poledouris. His fantastic score. His score is so grand. It's so epic. It has so much heart. It's wrenching. It's exciting. It's just, oh my God. And you place the imagery on it. This is a beautiful film. I love this movie so much. I tell you, one of my favorite scenes, obviously I've already told you guys 150,000 times, my favorite piece of music from this movie is the Valaria love theme. Or whatever it is. I did a little wrong. But it's when Conan gets resurrected back from the dead. And I just love that shot where he's in front of the beach and the sand or the wind is blowing through his hair, and he's doing the thing, and he does that with the sword. It's fantastic. And the beach and the water, all with the music, and he sticks his hand up like this, and you can see he's ready for battle. He's back from the grave, and it's time to take care of Tulsa Doom and his cannibalistic clan of predators. Now, I want to make a case in point. I've seen this movie thousands of times. I never, ever caught that they were cannibals before. Never caught that, ever. It wasn't until I saw this movie on DVD that I had even caught in that orgy scene that there are bodies in the background being carved up, and that's what's in the soup. Never caught that in the thousands of times. So I didn't realize Tulsa Doom is not only part man, part snake, and cult worshiper or cult leader or whatever. He's also a cannibal. So he literally lives to get people to come into his kingdom, kill themselves and eat them, or them kill themselves and eat themselves or whatever and have sex before they eat themselves. It's all sick stuff, but it's fantastic. It's great. It's awesome. Oh, man. It's just a beautiful score. And I think those are my favorite moments of this film is when they have the beautiful imagery with the music. I'm going to name a couple more. Obviously, I love the other scene when Conan decapitates Tulsa Doom. Oh, man. When he cuts his head off and he's walking with it and the camera is behind Arnold Schwarzenegger with all that back work that he did in bodybuilding. He's walking and the music's like, dun, dun, dun. And he takes the head and goes and throws it, and it rolls down the stairs. I just love it. It's fantastic. Oh, it's great. And I love to, after that, I really love how, I love when Conan finally becomes a man, when he finally goes one-on-one, head up with one of the guys, actually the guy who has his father's sword. When he goes man-to-man, toe-to-toe with him, that's one of my, and he breaks the sword, does the little ninja twirl, slices him on his neck, and I love how when Conan takes the broken sword and his new sword that he found by that Skeleton King. So who knows who this Skeleton King was, but it was almost like the Skeleton King guy was like, my time has passed, this is meant for you, here you go. And I love when Conan, which I think Michael Bay might have stolen that for The Rock, holds it up in the air like this, and it's in slow motion, and the camera pans back behind him, and it's in front of Valeria's grave. Oh, it's great. And I want to say lastly, one of my favorite parts of the movie too is when the film ends and Conan has killed Tulsa Doom and he's taking everybody out and all that. I love when Conan is sitting on Tulsa Doom's big cult castle thing or whatever. And he's just chilling there, just like this. And he's just chilling. He's just sitting there chilling. He ain't doing nothing. There's no monologue about, I'm so sad, I've gotten over my grief. No, ain't none of that. He's just sitting like this. And he's just chilling. And the camera just sits there and the music just softly plays as Conan is just taking it in. And then he takes that thing, and this is why I love the slow motion of him like this. And he throws it and burns the whole palace down. Guys, that's epic filmmaking. That is storytelling. That is epic filmmaking. Epic. Oh, man, I love this movie, man. It's great. It's great, man. Oh, man, I love this movie. Slight negative for this DVD version of the movie. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but for some reason, the Max von Sydow, I forgot to mention Max von Sydow's in this too, from The Exorcist and tons of other movies. He's good in it. He's good in it. Very, very small part. He plays it very theatrical though. How dare you? How dare you? You'll come at me with such rage? You know, all that kind of stuff. But he's good. He's good, you know. He plays it very theatrical, which this kind of material lends itself for. But where Conan goes back to kill Tulsa Doom, he brings the snake girl with him. I just cannot even process why they put that in this version of the movie. I don't know why it's there. I just think it's stupid. I think it slows the pace of that last part of the movie down because it's Conan's story. We don't need her there. She at that point in the story when she is introduced, she's just a plot device. She's not there for any meaning. She's just there as a plot device to have Conan find a way to track down Tulsa Doom and his cult people. That's the only reason she's there, and to give him more reason to go after Tulsa Doom. Because at this point in the story, he could walk away from Tulsa Doom, but it gives him more reason to want to go after him, and knowing all the damage that he's hurt all these people. So that's her only purpose in the story. So I really can't figure out what reason they put that in this director's cut. I heard the director saying that, oh, she brings him back there. I mean, she doesn't have to bring him back there because Conan has already been there earlier in the movie. So I don't know. It's a stupid thing they added in for the DVD. You know, I've got the VHS version. I prefer the theatrical version of the movie, and you know, I don't know why they added it in. You know, and I will say, I think the only person in this movie, only the people in this movie who should actually talk sincerely are James Earl Jones and Sandra Bergman. They're the only people who should be speaking in this movie. Everybody else should be driven totally by just their actions, you know. And I think Arnold Schwarzenegger was perfect for this part, and I think he does play it perfectly well. And the times when he speaks, you know, of course, Crom and the hell with you, you know, the way Arnold says that, you know, he's good and all that stuff. The only time I think he's really bad is during the love scenes, you know. But that's all I have to say about Conan the Barbarian. I could ramble more on and on about all my favorite scenes because there's you know, there's a lot of stuff in this I love. Of course, I love one more thing. I love the practical killing of that giant snake. We used to love that when we were kids, where Arnold stabs it and then he chops it in half. Practical snake. Now they're only showing pieces of it, but it still works. You know, and this movie was shot in 1980, so you can still do practical effects. They just don't want to. Thumbs up the video, subscribe to the channel, share the video. Don't forget to hit the little ring-a-ling ding 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 bell and leave comments down below about Conan the Barbarian 1982, starring the great Arnold Schwarzenegger and the great James Earl Jones. I will be back with the rest of my Arnold-a-thon and more movie reviews. RMJ Movie Reviews. I'll see you soon.